Okay, hello everyone. My name is David Armstrong, and in my spare time I work with some friends and relations on Catalyst Studios. We're a up-and-coming webcomics company, and when I mention that one of my hobbies to people, when I mention one of my hobbies is comics, if their eyes don't glaze over, one of the first questions I get asked is, where do you get all your character ideas from? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, just taking on a quick 10 minutes or so tour of the process we go through. And the good thing is, this is more or less the same process for all visual media. So the next time you're watching a movie, next time you're watching a drama series on TV, you can take a look and see your favourite character and see, so that's what the writers and that's what the creators have done to get that character to that point. That's why they act the way they do. And to do that, first of all, we're going to cover the absolute basics of character design, just how it starts, the guiding principles. Then we're going to take a look at the process in more detail, the stages that designer will go through to make sure that the character fits in with the world that they're in, and that they don't stand like a sore thumb. And then finally, we'll take a look at how those are visualised. Okay, first of all, the basics now. It all starts with a story, and the key thing is here, unless you get your setting right, everything else just falls by the wayside. It just doesn't feel natural. The characters have to fit in. And what I usually do is, when I'm starting on a story, when I'm starting on new characters, I'll meet with the writer if it's a collaborative project. We'll go down the pub, we'll have a few pints, we'll talk about what the story is, we'll work out all of the characters, and some of my best work actually comes from the bottom of a pint glass, has to be said. And at this first stage, I'm just sketching out ideas. You know, I'll be down there in the corner booth somewhere with a sketch pad out, pencil, just scribbling away, getting the ideas down. In cartooning in general, they say that the best thing to do for a character design, a clear character design, is to make sure the character can be recognised just by its silhouette. So that's where you have someone like Mickey Mouse, very, very visible, just 3 circles in silhouette. The Simpsons, each one of them is very distinct in silhouette as well. When you're talking about something that's a bit more serious in tone, that doesn't tend to work so well. So you have to find other ways to make them easy to identify. You do that with the hairstyles that they have, the clothes that they wear, the accessories they might have, things that kind of give away little bits and pieces about the character behind the character, so to speak. But you've got to make sure that that all fits in with how the world around them looks. If they look completely out of place, let's say it's a set in the 18th century and they look like they've stepped off the tube, it just doesn't work. So you've got to make sure that that matches up. And you've got to also to make sure that their actions and their build fits in with the role they play in the story. So if they're some kind of big muscular villain character, or supposed to be playing the role of a muscular villain character, if there's some weedy 5-foot-high guy with sticks for arms, it's not going to work. Okay, now we'll move on to the process behind it. Now these are the hoops we jump through when we're building up a character. First of all, we figure out when the story is set. Is it historical? Is it set in the future sometime? Is it in here and now? That's the first frame of reference we have. The next thing we do is to figure out the role that the character plays in the story, and this is where you get into the whole kind of Homerian archetypes. You get the hero, the villain, the mentor. It's a very complicated process. You can actually kind of, if you're pigeonholing people, far too complicated to go into here. But there are holes you can put your characters into if they're playing supporting roles. But if you want them to be a bit more three-dimensional, have a bit more weight behind them, you've got to think really about what role they play in the story. You know, do they progress it at all? And the rule is kind of simplify here. If your character is just there for scenery, if they don't advance the story in any way, then just relegate that particular role to a background character somewhere. Don't try and shoehorn in one person who's got one line and then move on without them. And finally, you have to figure out who the character is in the mind, in the actions. And this goes back onto what we were saying earlier today about body language. You've got to work out if the character has a particular set of gestures, if they're arrogant, if they're heroic, if they're villainous. There are all sorts of telltales that the artist uses to really build the presence of the character. Because at the end of the day, the artist is, if you're talking in film terminology, the artist of a story is the set designer, the director. They're also the actors. They put everything onto the stage. They make it live. They make it tell the story. They have to be aware of all of this when you're designing your character. And this is when we move on to the visualization side of things. Once you've sorted all of this out, you then start to get the personality going, and then you have the characters themselves. Now, this first example is it's body language again. It speaks 1,000 words, basically. You can tell a lot more about the character from a simple pose like that than you could if they were just standing stock still. So in this one, he's got a kind of impatient, slightly arrogant look to him. Probably not the kind of person you could have a friendly conversation with down the pub. Whereas you move on to the next guy, different character, similar kind of look in the eyes, but the rest of the face is completely different. He's got a sort of a smile bordering on a bit of a smirk there. He's standing straighter, he's looking at you straight in the eye, and he's carrying a bit more confidence in the way he's holding himself. And this is your character sketch stage. This is where you're breathing life into something which was previously just tiny little scratchings in the back of the sketch pad somewhere and a few words on a piece of paper. Once you've got your character absolutely down, you move on to the model sheet. Now, the model sheet is a rotation of the character in the costume that they'll be wearing for most of the time. And that is used so that whenever you're going through the actual drawing of the story itself, you can look back at this and you can see, oh, he's got 3 fastenings on his right shoulder or something. It's just to help consistency. It's to help get the actual presence of the character across and keep it unified throughout the entire time that they're on the page. And so just to recap the step by step, you figure out your scenario first of all, then you decide on your design style, make sure it all fits in with the story. Then you build up your character's personality. Once you've got it as you want it, you hone it into a reference tool on the character model sheet, and then you put everything on the stage, make it live, breathe, tell the story. Does anybody have any questions?
Are your comics in black and white or colour?
They're mostly in black and white at the moment. We're actually putting stuff together for a book, which is going to be printed in print costs in black and white. But
so presumably if you were doing colour when you went back to the model sheet?
Yes, that's right. The model sheet would also be the place where you lay down your colour scheme for the character.
Do you have a favourite genre, like horror comics?
Oh yes, yes. So I'm a kind of near-future sci-fi kind of person myself. It means I can actually make stuff up and not have to be ridiculously over the top with my research. It's great fun.
Okay, well done. Okay.
Thank you very much.